Hello everyone, welcome back to the rationalinvestor.co. I'm Brian Beamish, your rational investor here with our Bitcoin summary for our YouTube audience for Monday, September 8, 2014. It's been one heck of a busy market for the past week or so, in and out of trades. We got lots to talk about here. In an effort to try and streamline this a little bit more, and you can probably hear my reticence in the tone of my voice. But I've been suggested that we try and structure these YouTube videos a little bit firmer for you. So what we're going to try and do here is probably try again to limit the video to about 15 minutes, where we'll spend maybe the first couple minutes just reviewing, those and the reviews, then, roughly 5 minutes on BTCe, 5 minutes on Finex, 5 minutes on LTC, and then send you on your way. So we'll see how we go. I mean, all I can do is try my best. And the important thing about all of this project, my boss should keep in mind, is that I need to keep this fun. If this doesn't start being fun for me, then this whole thing falls apart. So, all right, let's move on to what we've been doing lately. Been posting in the CryptoDaily here, heading out of the end of last week. We had some interesting bullish setups present themselves, and things were looking relatively optimistic. I mean, it's a perfectly valid trade setup. Looking back in hindsight, looking at some of the charts, we could argue that maybe it wasn't the best trade location. OTE on BTCe, for example, was a little bit lower, but we drew it out OTE on the OK coin off of the total bottom. OTE was a bit lower. But, hindsight's always 20/20, right? So when you're in the moment and the trade setup presents itself, just as long as you have confidence that the trade setup's going to work 66% of the time over the long run, well, you just got to go with the setup. So, I could sit here and chastise myself. Long and short of it is I took the setup. And, subsequently, and I even posted later on, a little while later, posted things were still looking relatively positive. And then the market broke down. So we had our stop levels hit on this bullish bot, and I exited the trade. I think the important thing to keep in mind is I'm still sort of getting my feet wet with this Pamm, so I really didn't put a hell of a lot of money in there. I bought a tenth of a coin, like a $448 investment, and frankly, I just wanted to see how the trade was going to treat me. And the setup failed, and the stop level was hit, and I exited a little bit higher than where the stop level was, which is fine. That was the right thing to do. And when I look back in hindsight, and even I had posted this chart, I've added a new service, and you guys will notice this. I've added the volume profile to our charts now, and that sort of reiterated the idea that maybe that trade location wasn't such a good idea. So anyway, long and short of all of it is the trade setup did fail, and I did exit the trade. Now, the interesting thing that happened on this trade, and it's probably a little bit of fluke on my part, I suppose, is you'll notice on this this BTC chart down in the corner here, left-hand corner, you'll notice that this was a bear ABCD, boom, 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 and you see that Finex up here on the hourly chart, it completed it. So, when we had the breakdown here, you could argue that this is a bearish bot that set itself up. And only because I was fairly light on my toes, and I kind of actually, stumbled on the trade a little bit by accident, but basically I took that bearish bot setup and rode it to fruition. And so I'm still getting used to this light box thing here. So as a result, here was the bear ABCD setup, where the target was 466.65, which is this red line here. And it's at this point here where the original bot long failed, so I was stopped out here, on this mess. And I actually went and ended up shorting some as well. So, and yeah, that's what you can see all these, because what I wanted to do, right, was just cover this trade at basically, at the stop level, right? I got out at 476.04, and the stop out level was this like 475.51, I think is the low. Yeah, so 475.51. So that was fine, but the MT4, I'm still trying to get used to this, and so what I ended up doing, like trying to cover this trade, was sell more. And I actually did it 3 times, so I had on 0.3 short of BTC, and it was like, what the fuck is going on here? Excuse my French. Sorry, YouTube audience, if I swore there, but anyway. So what ended up happening, and now the interesting thing about this silly Pamm service, right, is that every time you put on a commission or a trade, you incur their crazy commissions. So the commissions on these trades worked it out to like 24 ticks. So, I put the short on, and not, coming back a little while later, I mean, thank heavens I did that. Well, actually, it was basically at the time, and I actually had a tutorial at the time, and when all of this was going down, the gentleman said, oh, okay, Brian, I'm ready for my tutorial, and I'm like, I got to deal with something here first. Let me deal with this, and then I'll get back to you. So anyway, I had on this egregious short position. You can see all 475, 476, 475, all in here, right around the original breakdown point. Covering two of the short positions basically at scratch, and keep in mind that you incur 24 ticks of commission on just pulling the trigger, regardless of what the outcome is on this 1/10 of a coin trade. So I made 24 ticks on this trade. I actually ended up basically a scratch on that. I made 29 ticks on this, which worked out to a +5 tick gain. And then, I had on, and so, that kind of irks me. I mean, that's frustrating when you see that, right? So those are pretty respectable gains, and yet they just got wiped out because of Pamm's commission service here. And it makes me very, very reluctant to do much more business with this Pamm and BTCe, because these commissions are just stupid. But anyway, that's just me. So I had, like I said, I did 2 3s. I ended up covering the long position, right, at basically the price I should have. So that was fine. In fact, we did a little better than what the actual stop out level was. So that was fine. And that racked up, like what it says here, 59-cent loss plus commission, right? So it worked out to like 85-cent loss. And then, like I said, I had on these 3. So, after I cleaned up 2 of them, so I had on 1 net short position. And frankly, this isn't a terrible trade idea. Basically it is the bearish bot, right? And you've got a double top working here. So you can argue that there is a trade set up here. And when you do this, I think on one of my BTC charts I ran them. Oh, that's not a good sign. You don't like to see that. A blank chart. Let's see. Do I have it? I think this is the chart here, right? And so this is the bearish bot, and I'm only showing this to you guys on YouTube just so you can see the trade setup. So the short was 479.36, and like I said, just so you guys understand my madness here, I was short from 475.73, which really wasn't that close to that price, but anyway, the bear ABCD on this case, and keep in mind that the Pamm net levels are just slightly different than BTC posted on Wisdom or on TradingView, which is another issue altogether. But anyway, long and short of it here, bought short was this level, you risk against this level. So I, basically I had on the extra short position. So I was like, well, you might as well just live by the sword, die by the sword. So I left it on, and I just left the open order here to buy it back at the bear ABCD target. In fact, I had it at 1 tick above the target. And so you can see that was hit here, 466.66. So, and that was a, pretty respectable gain, more than offset the losses on this trade in particular. So I felt okay about that and just sort of basically cleaned up. Now, here's another example, right? That was a 90 tick gain, but because of 24 friggin' ticks of commission, that wiped it down to only 66 cents a gain. A little bit of a piss off there. So it makes it very tough for me to even consider doing these lower time frame trades on the Pamm service. And so somebody the other day was, why don't you trade more? Why don't you trade more? Well, this is the reason. Because if I trade more and I look for targets and the targets are hit, all I'm doing is working for the damn broker. And then if the setups fail, it's like a double slap in the face, because not only do you take the appropriate risk on the setup, but then you get handed this big old commission bill. So at the end of the day, it's not quite in my interest to keep doing that. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. Long and short of it here, the Pamm account at the moment is basically just sitting exactly where it was before I even did the original bought long. We're just sitting here. Doesn't show on. Well, there it is. Remember we had like a 12 or I guess maybe. Well, anyway. I don't know whether that net math is exactly correct, but long and short of it here is the bot account at the moment is, the Pamm account at the moment is just basically sitting in scratch. Let's see what it says here. Oh, it shows minus 0.07. So anyway. Okay, moving right along. And basically I am flat right at the moment there. So just so that you guys are aware. All right, so moving right along, we can put all this stuff away now. Let's get on to the sort of reviews for you. What are we doing here of late? I've been very interested in this cannabis coin, CANN. So if you want to take a look at that altcoin, come on over to the site. You can read the daily post as well. We've been chatting about it in the live room quite a bit here today. In the members video, I'll probably do a bit of a detailed look at that. So that's something really interesting. Now for the actual individual coins that I like to review here for the YouTube audience, we'll start with BTC, and maybe what we'll do is just a brand new spanking new chart, nothing written on it, so we can just sort of do our basic due diligence here for you. So we'll start the review of the coins themselves now. I show that it's 2:24. We'll try and do this to 2:30, or about 6 minutes. See how we do. Okay, so once upon a time, way back when, Bitcoin broke out from the Silk Road event, right? That was this low here, and ran all the way up to these ridiculously high highs up here. And we'll just, just for the purposes of time here, we'll just ballpark these fibs. The numbers won't be exactly right. And I think, if we start dealing with log scale, things get a little screwy here. So let's just take off the log scale and we'll deal with just basic price scale. All right, so there's our sort of big picture price range for everyone in the public to just really keep in mind. This I really think basically defines the Bitcoin market. So, I have a basic principle called the optimal trade entry, OTE, and basically that's the 61.8 to 78.6 fib. And what we did here was we said the market started here and went zooming all the way up here. So if we're going to go onto TradingView and draw a fib, we select the fib tool. We want the 0 number to be right up at the top, because we're going to measure what percentage of this move the market's taking back. So this is 38% of the move, this is 50% of the move, this is 61, this is 78.6. This is 100% of the move all the way down to here, right? So long and short of it here is institutions do not buy the tops of the markets. In fact, they usually sell the tops of markets. And there are some institutions that are notoriously unethical, which will actually go out and promote the public to buy the top of the market. Goldman Sachs, hint, hint, hint. So the long and short of it here is, as investors, we ask ourselves, where is the most likely place for them to buy the market? And that, time and time again, has been proven, this OTE range. So if we're going to consider this a buying event, we'll paint this color green, okay? Like I said, I've added volume profile to the chart, and really what the volume profile chart should do is just basically confirm our idea that this is a buying zone. basically, if you take this OTE range idea, then what you're saying is that, look at, I believe this is the bottom end of the trading range, and this is the top end of the trading range. If I buy this area of the trading range, then by definition, if I'm going to play this range, then by definition, I'm going to sell if we break the bottom of the range, and I'm going to at a loss and get out and take my lumps and walk away. Conversely, if we see a test of the top of the range, I'm going to take profits. So this trading model, by definition, is more than a 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio, right? Or reward-to-risk ratio. So that's why it's a really handy tool to use, and that's why institutions like it. You know, it's just nice and simple. You know, do you take profits on the way up inside this range? Well, you know, that's entirely up to you. My general feeling is if you really want to play this strategy to fruition, then you buy that 375, you risk $300 on the trade, and your potential reward is a test of the old highs or about $700 in profit. Right? So it's more than 2-to-1 risk reward, and you know it may take a couple years for either of these levels to be hit, but that's basically the range trade strategy. It's just as simple as that. Now, what you'll notice is that when we do get down into the area, and this often happens, is that basically it's rejected, right? I mean, I suppose we went far beyond the OTE, but nonetheless, price was quickly rejected here, right? And rejected, and rejected. Now, this rejection has been very slight so far here, right? I don't even know whether we've really actually rejected this. And the problem is the more times we test into the OTE, obviously the lesser validity it's going to have. And then if we start talking about market structure, for example, you know, like if this keeps making lower highs and lower lows, right? And we're going to, for the purposes of this, we're going to disregard this crazy one trade here. But, you know, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right? I mean, we've got a definite, you know, like we've got precedent in here, right? And then if we look at the actual market structure itself, if we zoom this chart in, top, right, M top, M top, and this is just a basic principle of our, you know, the market is that M's are selling events and W's are buying events. And oops, didn't want to do that. There we go. M top. And I guess, you know, when we come to today, this is what really concerns me. Is M top, right? And now even recently, M top. And now today's price action, we can zoom in. We'll see it's another M top. And conversely, bear markets, their bottoms are V's, right? So that's a V, that's a V, right? That's a V, and we can go back over time and see them repeatedly. So, you know, that's sort of the backdrop of what we're dealing with here. It's not really the most optimistic picture. And really, until we start getting serious W's, and we had one in the spring, really good-looking little W in here, and I called it the trade of the year. But until we start getting some W's, you know, it's very hard for me to come to you guys in the YouTube audience and say, you know what, now's the time to be bullish. Because it just isn't. It sucks, but it just isn't. Now, let's zoom in real close on recent action. Let's see what we got here. So you can see, you know, a few things jump out at me here when I look at this BTC. So a couple things. Volume profile, right? We call this really big area sort of the POC, or the point of control. And what ends up happening typically is that the market will trade above the point of control up into these low volume nodes and below the point of control into these low volume nodes. But ultimately, it will spend a lot of time just basically oscillating back and forth around the POC. That's sort of how volume profile works. The bigger the profile, and keep in mind that ideally, the profile really wants to be a nice, rounded, filled out profile. That's ideally what the profile wants. So you can see that we traded a little up here, and we've got this big hole in the profile here, right? There's something really wrong here. My hunch is that we could very easily spend some time trading up in there. We'd have to get some sort of resolution through the top of this value high. You know, range traders for the time being, they're going to be, you know, those that use the volume profile. Let's get rid of that, and we'll get rid of that and that. All right, so range traders for the time being, and it's really cool how it lines up with price. They're going to be looking to sell above this sort of value mountain that we've got built here, right? Which means that they're basically going to be looking to sell against these highs, right? Right up in here. And so for members, I would type in HVSHT or Hogue Value Short Trade. Conversely, you know, range traders are going to be looking to buy into the bottom of value below value low here, right? You can, and basically this box should represent where 70% of the volume of a particular study represents. And that's basic. You can see how the bars really trail off and really trail off. So, and really what I would say is it's probably against these candle lows here. There probably wasn't a heck of a lot of volume down below here. And this tail is probably defining the bottom of this range right for now. So that's sort of how I'm looking at BTC. So, you know, I suppose we could argue OTEs might be interesting, especially since we're getting back into the higher time frame OTE long zone. We also have a bit of a bear ABCD working here from today, I believe. All right. And so BTC and for Pamm and all that, look how that lines up right against the bottom of those candles and candle bodies and the ABCD target, which would be nice, you know, for members. I would, on the charts, I'd type up HVTLN or LG, right, for T. So for Hogue Value Trade buy or long down in this area. So, you know, that idea makes a lot of sense, but you can see this low is 461.14, today's low 460 even. So we've broken the bottom of this. You know, again, another principle we learn in the class is really you could just start doing range extensions now off of just this little trading range here. We go and do extension, and we reverse it. So look at that. That bear ABCD coincides perfectly with these candle body lows and the golden ratio 161, and that's 441.85, and that would be below value, which would actually represent a half decent Hogue value long trade. So we should keep that in mind. I think that's probably an important level to keep going forward. Now we look at the internals. We can see that volume is not happy here. Big down bar, so it made new low on OBV. The bears are clearly in control. From people who took our class, we studied how you can actually use these volume bars to tell you who's in control of the market right now. Momentum, nothing really to write home about. You know, we might have a new double top coming in here on momentum, so we better watch the lows in momentum off of this low. I mean, I suppose you could argue the fact that we went to a new low in price here and momentum has not means we might have a little bit of a bullish divergence. We'd probably see that on the lower time frame charts. Another plug for you to maybe take a look at the member site. And Willie here, while not stupidly overbought, has given us a little bit of a market structure top and has broken down. So, you know, Willie certainly isn't helping the bulls here. Right, so I think that's going to be a pretty good summary of BTCe at the moment. Looks like we're still, you know, pulling back. We definitely have this market structure top staring you in the face, bang, bang, bang. until we get some sort of market structure bottom. And the fact that we just made a new low on this daily bar means that we're not going to get it today, that's for sure. We're still working the downside of this market. And my hunch is I really do believe that this is probably a very good target to keep in mind, right around that 440 area. All right, so that's about it. Let's see. That's interesting. So Bitfinex, they're not giving us a chart there. I have no idea why. Well, we'll try and refresh to see what happens. And Litecoin, well, Bitfinex is refreshing. Let's take a look at Litecoin. Litecoin's got a really interesting battle going on here. You know, if we were talking about Hogue value areas, you know, clearly there is a new POC that's being developed here, right? This point of control. And look how price is just sort of oscillating around it. Don't like the fact that Litecoin made a new low here, right? Because that basically implies a bearish market structure. We did have a very little OTE or a bot long setup, kind of similar to the LTC, or excuse me, the BTC bot setup. And lower time frame participants, we'll take a look at that in the members video. But really, there's not a heck of a lot for you YouTubers to be looking at here. Momentum, nothing really to get excited about here either way. You had a little bit of a panic low there. Willie was pretty stupid, so obviously this was a horrible time to be thinking about selling. And sure enough, price ratcheted back up. We might be setting up this really big bullish ABCD, which paints a target up into sort of this area. There might be a nice bullish bot that sets up here, and it really, you know, my mentor in volume profile, John Hoagland, the Hogue, as people on the site know, everybody on the CME affectionately refers to him as. He would not like this trade location up here, right? In fact, HVT short would be right up here, right? Above 70% of the value. And look at this node right here. You know, like Hogue would probably want a short somewhere up in here, which just so happens to be right around the ABCD target. So I don't know whether Hogue would like me taking this bullish bot. And, you know, it's kind of like what happened on BTCe recently, where I took the bullish bot at a poor trade location, and Hogue would not have liked my trade location, and the setup failed. So according to Hogue, you know, if we're thinking about buying based purely on volume profile, we should be hunting down in this area. And my hunch is that's probably where OTE is. Let's see. Boom. Right. So do you see how OTE, or optimal trade entry, just so happens to correspond very well with Hogue's value trade idea? All right. So we'd have an HVTLG trade here, right? And with an OTE sweet spot, right? Right in here. So that's a pretty good trade setup. Right now, this is not really great trade location. And I got suckered into doing it once off of BTCe. And you know the old adage, right? Once burned, twice shy. I think I need to, especially for the purposes of the class, really need to sharpen things up, get a little bit more trade discipline, and let's try and just choose our trade locations a little bit better. You know, here is the bot levels just for your reference. That's backwards, of course. So you can see how the bot wants to sucker you into going long here, 533, but that's right at the POC, and Hogue would not be happy with that trade. Yeah, we could get a nice little pop up to 7.5, but the interesting thing about 7.5, and I was looking at this with a gentleman recently who sort of asked me, where do you think Litecoin's going, Brian? You know, that kind of talk. If we do OTEs off of this entire range, I think this is going to give us a pretty high. Yeah, that's way up there. If we go off of this range, yeah, that's sort of, well, even that's not even too outlandish. What happens if we go off of this range? Ah, there you go. All right, so if we go off of this range, and actually that kind of makes sense because that's basically the fail of this level here, right? But, just hypothetically here, if we go off of this range and we do OTE, you can see that basically the bull ABCD target sets up a really good shorting opportunity. All right. And Hogue, and didn't I even say, Hogue wants us to be shorting above value, right, away from the POC. And you could actually argue that this is another little profile developing right here, right? So basically taking a trade here, shorting it, is what you're saying is the price has been playing around in this area. It jumped up into this area. What are the odds of it continuing on past this POC, right? And I think the odds are relatively low. If we looked at actually like the individual sessions, again, looking at lower time frames with the clients in the live room, I bet there's lots of marks there to watch. So anyway, interesting stuff here on Litecoin. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of the levels that I'm watching. We've got some Hogue value levels here that I think are very valuable, right? 70% of this current trading range here. This profile, basically this funny node here, this notch here, and then of course up against the previous POC with the bull ABCD, or OTE, come down, test these lows, get down into area where Hogue think that's below value, and not a bad idea as well. And then the problem here, right? I mean, ideally, what I think I'd like to see is I'd like to see the 750 level hit on a nice bearish divergence and maybe Willie stupid and a nice OBV divergence too. I mean, that would set up an awesome trade. Right now, we're getting nothing from the internals. They're just sort of wishy-washy. We don't have a very good trade location, either OTE-wise or volume profile-wise. So really, for me to justify taking a trade on Litecoin, I got to see a little bit more development of this market. Okay, and well, there's Finex. Finex came back. So quick view at Finex. The good part about Finex, thanks heavens, is it doesn't look nearly as atrocious as BTCe. Basically, we've held these lows from the spring, right here, boom, boom. All right, and we talked lots about this in the past. There's lots of reason why the market needed to run out of steam there. And so we just do an OTE off of that range. Oops, let's reverse that. All right. And there is OTE. So this is encouraging, and again, I'm just ballparking these. They're not exact numbers. It's encouraging that we've come down into this area, and you can see how it's been rejected on multiple times, but this is getting old, and at some point OTE is just going to give up. Any people that were willing to buy here, they bought now, right? And if the sellers just keep coming and keep coming and keep, they're going to drive this market through the lows. That's just a fact of life. We still have to keep into mind now. What I would simply say with regard to OTE is, great, if you took the setup, great. This is your risk. It's just as simple as that, and this is your potential reward, right? Simple as that. And I don't know whether this is on log scale. Yeah, it is. Okay, so there we go, right? Right, so it looks like that, right? I mean, that's just the trade setup, and you just got to live with the results. We know that more than 50% of the time OTEs work, So at this point, you're in the trade because it looks like we got a tag there, right? So you're in the trade and you're just letting the damn thing work, right? And, you know, maybe you get stopped out and you have to walk away. That's a good possibility. Maybe the market turns back up and runs through the highs and you hit your 2-to-1 profit objective. That's good too. So really, I don't see anything really big here. Now, if we look at this on the short term and really zoom in, we can see that technically there are some problems here, right? So, you know, again, talking about market structure, we keep getting lots of bearish anecdotal evidence, right? Bang, 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 M top. We just did another one, right? Bang, 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 M top, right? We just made new lows here. So, you know, we've got evidence to support the bear argument, right? This low here was 468.82. Today's low 464.22. So we've gone through that low. We've got this low to protect us, and we also have this low too as well to protect us. So we'll see how she acts in there. And keep in mind that was the OTE sweet spot, right? Actually, the sweet spot's down in here. So we'll keep a close eye on how she acts in here, right? Volume profile wise, now this is interesting because we actually have what, you know, if there are any female audience members, I apologize because this is very crude and it's very typical futures traders talk. But basically, you know, we've got a nice set of very well developed boobs here. And we've got some pretty deep cleavage. My hunch is that actually this is acting as a magnet right now, this cleavage here. And we could actually very realistically have like two basic range trade setups, right? So this is Hoag's value profile for this part of the profile. And I suppose you could argue there's also one for this part of the profile. Remember, like we said, the profile ideally wants to fill itself out. The profile ideally wants to look like this. So for it to get to look like this, it means that we got to do some serious price discovery in this sort of 550 area and fill this profile in, right? Fill the cleavage in. But, you don't know exactly when the market's going to do that, so we have to, basically, we're playing right now this part of the profile. And you can see that just like there's cleavage right here, there's also some pretty good cleavage in here too, right? So all this area could be filled in. And that is down to 460 area, right? Which would basically, that's kind of where we are near the lows here, right? And I suppose you could argue that Hoag would say, look, you don't really want to be a buyer until outside of 70% of this profile's range, which really is sort of down in here around the 415-ish area, somewhere down in there, right? And remember, we always used to say that the market will determine whether this bull is for real on how it acts around the 78.2. So we may go zipping down below it and then take some time to recapture it. That happens a lot in this business. So, the volume profile, the price action, momentum, volume, market structure, everything here right now is suggesting more down. It's not as crazy down as the BTCe. BTCe's got a pretty respectable 441 target there. Interesting on Finex, 441 is the OTE sweet spot. I suppose you could argue if we look at those same sort of bear ABCD patterns, Finex has it like this. I'll be able to pick that up. All right, there to there, there to there. Oh, come on. There we go. Something like that. So look at that. And it's perfectly on the OTE. Holy shit, that's incredible when that happens, eh? So maybe we don't get the 78.6 test. It comes down to 441 just like BTC does, right? Because BTC is painting 441. And that's our ultimate low. So that's interesting. All right, that's probably a good note to end on. So you got a little bit of an introduction to my favorite new toy, volume profile. You're going to be hearing lots and lots about this in the future. We talked a little bit about BTCe. We talked about Finex. We talked about Litecoin on Finex. So you've got lots to chew on there. I'll be doing a members video shortly after this. So those people, so members, pop on over to the site and you can basically just watch where I'll take off from this. And we'll go look at the lower time frame charts and what they're saying. I think we got a pretty good forecast of what's happening. I mean, the long and short of it here for Bitcoin is this is not a bull market. And YouTubers, you kind of like not, I don't want to be a technician, not so crazy, staring at the charts 24/7. The simple message for you guys is there's nothing to do here right now. Don't worry about it. Now we're into September. We've got this transition period going back to school and all that kind of fun stuff. Just take this simple message that you're not missing the bull just yet. That may change, and you know me, I'll be the first one to be squawking about it when the bull does arrive, but it's not. All right, so have yourselves a great day. All the best. Happy trading. Good luck in following those trading plans. And by all means, if you are interested in learning how to trade or even understanding some of the tools that I use, pop on over to the site. You're more than welcome to just peruse through the tools. Everything that I talk about here is in the tutorials. Take a look at the School for Bitcoin Traders. I mean, that program is just going phenomenally well. Again, just really, really good feedback on it. Crypto Live, I mean, I'm in there all the time just chit-chatting away. I mean, you can see members are just talking away 24/7. We're talking charts. And then the CryptoDaily, you can see that I'm very active in here, and at least once a day, which I think might be asking a bit much if there's just nothing to talk about on that day. But generally speaking, once a day, I like to send a message out to the group. All right, so have yourselves a great day. All the best. I probably went way over time, but who cares? Having fun. Talk to you later. Bye for now.